So today is the 10th of Sivan, Yom Yud. 10th of Sivan, the 7th, 6th of June. Okay. So we said we can't see God's essence, but we understand Him from His action. The same way we can't see the soul, and yet we understand it from how it affects us. That's something we talked about in length last night. Kilomar. So we're 6 lines from the bottom of page 90. Kilomar, עניין זה שהשם הוא אלוקים, תוכל להגיע בבחינת דעת ממש. והוא אימות חזק כמו הראייה ממש. So the fact that God is Elokim, and what we mean by Elokim, these two names, Havaya is like the essence, and He is the Elokim, He is the forces that act. So this means that we can bring it to consciousness, because we can learn from the actions, from the Elokim. Elokim represents the actions. And it's as strong as, he says, as eyesight. שמה שאינו משיג מהותו, אינו שום רפיון ושינוי בחיזוק אמיתות ברור מציאותו, אצלו כאילו רואה ממש. So even though I can't understand the essence, but there's no question about the existence. The existence is as if I see it itself. מאחר שיודע מציאותו, כמו שנתבהר לעיל בארוכה ממשל הנפש. And as we explained in length from the parable, the analogy to the soul, which again we can't see, we don't understand. As William James said, the word soul is a placeholder because we don't know what it refers to, in the same way that an electron, we don't know what it refers to. And yet we see all its effects in reality. So we understand that it exists. אלא שבהשגת מהות האלוקות יהיה תענוג עצום ונפלא לאין קץ ותכלית, כי הוא מקור התענוגים. But the big difference is that with the soul, if you would be able to understand its essence, it wouldn't add very much to you. Understanding the essence of the soul is like the soul affecting the body. There's not much difference. The understanding will not cause anything. In other words, self-reflection, until a person understands himself fully, as it were, doesn't lead to greater, call it, satisfaction. But if you would be able to grasp the essence of godliness, of God, then you would attain tremendous pleasure without end. Because that is the source of all pleasure. And what we mean pleasure here is every type of pleasure. Pleasure that obviously also includes the physical pleasure that the body feels. But the main thing here is the pleasure of the soul, the pleasure of the intellect, the pleasure of the spirit. That's what it means when it says that prophets, for instance Abraham, it says, and God was seen to him. He made himself seen by him. What do you mean? That he didn't only perceive the actions of Hashem, that's true too, but he also received some inkling of the essence. Of the essence of Hashem. And so he had tremendous pleasure from this. And in the future, he will also reveal himself to us in some level. That's what we mean by Yemos HaMashiach. That's what we mean by the days of the Mashiach. The days of the Mashiach are when the Ein Sof becomes apparent, it becomes revealed. So it depends on both of us. Like it says in chapter 37 of the Tanya, that we have to prepare the vessel. We prepare the vessel through the mitzvos. And then we reach the same level as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This we talked about a lot, this double motif in the Torah. That the Torah begins with the work of the patriarchs, which was to know God without commandments. There were no commandments. And then when we came out of Egypt, we became a nation that follows God's commandments. But the purpose is to return with the commandments to the state of the patriarchs. To walk before Hashem, seeing Him in some level. Right, to know God. Not just to know that He exists, but to know His essence. That's what Isaiah chapter 40 verse 5 says, all flesh will see. All flesh refers to us. Or in chapter 52, Ayin be'ayin yiru. They will see eye to eye. כנודע. ומכל מקום יוכל כל משכיל לדבר להתענג תענוג עצום ונפלא מרוב כל בידיעה זו שיצר בדעתו ייחוד השם יתברך. Yet even now, just by contemplating what we do know about Hashem indirectly through His actions, in the same way again that we understand that there's a quantum world only through the effects in a bubble chamber, which really means nothing. Who cares? But that's how you indirectly you deduce what is underlying, what is the reality underlying. By the way, human beings are ingenious at inventing indirect ways to figure things out. Ingenious. I was watching a YouTube video a few months ago about some professor who studies black holes, and he deduces a way how to know what's happening on the other side. It's crazy. But it makes a lot of sense. I can't explain it without, I don't understand it well enough to be able to repeat it. But when he explained it with the little physics I know, it made sense. This is the way you could do it. And it's unbelievable. Even though we all understand, if you go through a black hole, there's nothing coming back out. But it's just the fact that I can send something in, that already tells me something. It's amazing. It's just incredible how good we are at this. So this itself causes great pleasure. When a person deduces, he understands what Hashem's essence is, even though he can't grasp it, but he understands it indirectly. He's not grasping it. It's not in his mind. I can't contain God in my mind. It's not yet the days of Mashiach. It's not yet when Hashem is revealing Himself, and I'm a vessel for it yet. I'm not yet a vessel for it. By the way, probably the reason we're not a vessel for it, maybe one of the reasons, is there's a whole theory about why did human consciousness come about. So it's Julius Jaynes, this famous book called The Development of Conscious Through the Bicameral Mind. And the whole idea there is that the reason we have consciousness is because our two hemispheres talk to each other. So there's a duality within the mind itself. Each hemisphere has its own, call it like perspective on the world, and they talk to each other. So we feel that there's a conversation going on.
That was developmental.
Right. So he says that in lower creatures, it's one camera.
Right.
It's one. So we say there's not just two. There's actually four, right? Because we say that there's wisdom and understanding, and that has two. So it's a four-way conversation, maybe. But to really become a vessel for Hashem as one, maybe it is, like he says at the end of his book, that slowly we're going to go, this is going to end. It's going to fuse again. And it'll be one flesh. And it says that everybody will be one to hear Hashem. So it could be that that's why we're not a vessel yet, because we tend to jump and to understand Hashem, maybe. But there's a lot to say about that. So we can only contemplate the oneness of Hashem. We can't grasp it really, because in our mind it's always going to be divided. Even though we don't understand the essence. Just as a very wealthy man is happy in what he has in his safe, doesn't have to touch it all the time. To touch it, he doesn't have to feel it. Just the fact that he knows he has it causes him great pleasure. Shabbat Shalom.